Hello everyone, my name is Mercy and welcome back to another video where I'm going to have to take this mask off because I don't know if you can really hear me too well on there. Oop, I just turned the lights on for this thing. This thing's really cool. My sister actually bought me for this, I think on my birthday, so, well shoot, I don't even know how to turn this off. Okay, figure it out. Okay, well, hello everyone. This is a bit of a different video I wanted to do. I've been making a lot of Halo videos lately of basically just reacting to the new content for Halo Campaign Evolved, which a lot of people seem to be very mixed on, honestly, and I can't find a single human being on planet Earth that is really excited or even really cares about it. In fact, I've only seen a lot of negative things, unfortunately, but that's okay because it hasn't had the best track record, quite honestly, and I'm the only one probably on planet Earth that's really excited about it, honestly, but I'm going to keep doing that because even though, I am still a Halo fan at the end of the day, and I'm going to be critical of the small little things sometimes, I'm still really excited for this game. So, with that out of the way, I kind of wanted to explain why I like Halo so much. I mean, I've been very busy on a lot of things, so it's kind of just out of nowhere, just reacting to this stuff. I mean, I have a lot of time out of my day to do so, so I made sure to do so. But why do I really like Halo as a franchise? Well, I can't go out and say that a long time ago when I was like, you know, who knows how young in 2001 or 2004 or whatever. Well, guess what? I wasn't born. I was kind of a late bloomer, you might want to say, in terms of joining the Halo franchise. In fact, a lot of people at school didn't even know what the hell that either was, or they just simply didn't care. It was just old, ancient video game history at that point. And this would have probably been around the Halo 5, Halo 4-ish era in my elementary years. But I thought it was so cool at the time. But everyone was always into Call of Duty or Fortnite eventually. Fortnite, it wasn't quite there quite yet because Fortnite I think came out in like 2017, but it wasn't it was usually Call of Duty or some other shooter game. But Halo was like, again, old school gamer type stuff. But I was always there for it. And most people were obviously on PlayStation. And when they were on Xbox, they weren't playing Halo. They just weren't, and it really sucked. But when I was able to, when I had friends as a kid and was able to, bring them over to play a game with me, it was, there was always other games too, don't get me wrong. But the only multiplayer game that we ever played was Halo 3. The only one that we were able to access two-player, split screen on any sort of thing was always Halo 3. Now, Halo 3 wasn't actually my game per se, and it wasn't even Halo 3 that I was playing all the time. It was actually Halo 3 ODST, which consisted of the same multiplayer as Halo 3, I'm pretty sure for the most part, and also had Firefight, but we never played Firefight, and I don't even know if if we even knew the existence of it. And I wasn't allowed to play for mature games, but for some reason we were allowed to play Halo. So when I think of Halo 3 multiplayer maps, for the most part, I would assume pretty much every single one of them that was included on ODST's multiplayer thing, which I think was every single one of them, honestly. I memorized that so much, or so easily, that it is just nostalgic memory for me. And I sometimes really want to go back to those maps because a lot of the time I just don't even think about it at this point. I just think of, oh, yeah, there's a lot of multiplayer games in, Halo and whatnot, but I just never care to come back to it, honestly. But when I think about multiplayer in general, and I've mentioned this to friends before as well, I'm really not a multiplayer person at all whatsoever. I've never been into multiplayer. I don't like multiplayer. I don't really like playing with other people. Aside from maybe Roblox, that's the only exception. But what's the only other exception that I will always include for whatever reason that might be? It's Halo. And I don't know if that's a nostalgic reason or what it is, but Halo has a very different gameplay style compared to something like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Fortnite or whatever out there. I'm sure there's a lot of games you could probably compare to it now because of how many games have came out over the years that, may or may not be directly inspired by Halo. I'm not going to know what you're talking about if you're going to bring it up, though, because I'm not going to know. But I assume there's probably, by this point, a lot of them doing that. And again, it was technically Halo's multiplayer that brought me into the franchise, and it's kind of weird to say that out loud because, again, I don't play multiplayer ever. But when I do, I unironically do probably play Halo or Roblox, but it's always online now. So it's really weird coming to that, degree of like I play that. I know it's such a small little thing, and it's like, well, why are you even bringing that up? Well, I don't know. I just felt like it was an integral part of my journey through the Halo franchise, because it's not that it's just the game franchise that's so important to me. I could say the same thing about Doom, but I can't go to old Doom. I can't play new Doom multiplayer. I can't play. Or I mean, I wouldn't really play much of Arkham Origins multiplayer, but I thought it was cool at the time. But I'm a huge Arkham fan, obviously, and I just don't think about that stuff. I'm gonna stop yapping about what is it? Just Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, which again, I have a lot of nostalgia for even ODST for just watching my sister play the game, which I thought was really, really cool at the time. The ambience was so unique. It was so different. I didn't know it had any connection to Halo 3, really, other than, the title was Halo 3 ODST, but obviously it's pretty much the same engine and, some differences here and there, obviously, like the reticle or whatnot, right? And, all the same Covenant and Aliens, just a different storyline, kind of like a DLC in a way, obviously. And I didn't really know much about it, but I always had a huge interest in Halo. But what kept me back from doing that is that I wasn't allowed to play it. I wasn't allowed to play all these different games that were M for mature. They were too, gory or whatnot. But when I finally came to that age, even before becoming a teenager, I was finally able to play Halo, allowed to play Halo, because I convinced my parents, I guess, that I'm able to play a game like this because it's not as bad as the other games. So they allowed me to do it, luckily. It's not like it's Grand Theft Auto or anything, right? So, getting into Halo and nothing really bad happening to me. I mean, I didn't go shoot up a... Okay, I shouldn't joke about that, but you know what I mean, right? Like, everything was fine and dandy. I remember as a kid, it was the coolest thing ever to finally get into the Halo games. Which, granted, it would have been Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, eventually Halo 5 Guardians as well, Halo Reach, even Halo Wars was so cool at the time that I was like, everyone really craps on this game or whatnot, but Halo Wars was just like, even though it was so different, it was still Halo, baby. And Halo is so cool because as a child, I thought it was so interesting. I thought it was like, one of those really rated R M for mature games. And I still think it is, really. I don't really understand why they always go back to like the T for teen rating when that's just not Halo. Halo needs blood, Halo doesn't need to be bloody disgusting everywhere unless it's maybe the Flood, but why kick that out of the franchise IP? I've never understood that at all. So, I mean, this is just a video just rambling about, like, Halo this, Halo that. I mean, I couldn't really tell you a whole explanation for it. I think the biggest thing about Halo, I mean, honestly, what really brought me in is, it was so different. It was creepy. I thought ODST was a scary game as a kid. And more than that, what was cool? Well, Halo's cool. Master Chief is cool. The Arbiter. I fell in love with the Arbiter. I didn't even know who the Arbiter was. I didn't know anything about Halo 2's storyline. I was like, what? And Halo 3. I remember Halo 3. And nowadays, Halo 3 isn't my favorite Halo game. It's probably my third favorite Halo game. Like, it's always Halo 2, Halo 1, and Halo 3 is like my listing for my top 3 favorite Halo games, right? But back when I was a kid, I remember finishing Halo 3. And spoiler alert, a certain character dies. So I remember that very, vaguely. And I don't know why it was specifically that moment at that time. But I was like, yeah, Halo 3 is the greatest video game of all time. I understand it now. I mean, it was so cool, but to me it was so emotional too because I had an attachment to these characters. Because usually in a lot of storylines and stuff, I mean, I told stories before on this channel where I grew up, watching certain stuff like, I mean, obviously Bambi or whatever, right? Like, I don't think it really matters any of that stuff, right? But I came connected to a lot of these characters, which Miranda was in the second one, and I didn't really care too much about her or anything like that, but she was, obviously integral to the story, and I'd never had that attachment to just video games in general where, a character dies, especially in such a, in my opinion, I know people might argue Halo 3 has some issues, and I would agree to a certain extent because I don't like the inconsistency between Halo 2 and 3, mainly between the Prophet of truth, right? I mean, it's not just a voice actor thing. I think the character is kind of much different, albeit I still love both iterations of the character, don't get me wrong. I just feel like it was a little bit different from the switch to 2 to 3. And the most, biggest one, obviously, again, spoiler alert, is Sergeant Johnson when he passed out. He passed away. What am I saying? He got killed by 343 Guilty Spark. You shouldn't have never trust that prick. But that all stems back to the first one, the original one. The first one was in Halo 3, how it was depicted in its cutscenes. A lot of people nowadays, I feel like, they just don't really like it as much or care, and I get it. Halo 2, in my opinion, is the best one, mainly because of its story. I really don't care much for its gameplay compared to the first one, the third one, though. People might disagree with me on that. I think Halo 2 is a banger multiplayer. I think they all really do, the first three at least. But, that was such an emotional scene for me because I liked Sergeant Johnson so much. Well, as a kid, I didn't cry or anything like that, but it was such an epic finale. Because Halo 3, if you don't know, obviously, what am I saying you don't know all the time? Halo 3 is, you're ending all of the wars that you started all the way back from the first one and the second one. So everything that you basically started, which, Halo Combat Evolved didn't really know what was going to turn into, right? And then Halo 2 continued that story in a huge, big way. And then, hey, if you played Halo 2, it wasn't a Halo 1 situation where it was up in the air where, are they going to continue this? Or are they going to make a sequel? No, obviously, because the cliffhanger of Halo 2, you ended up getting Halo 3, which was like, I was already used to a lot of its gameplay mechanics, and because I grew up with playing its multiplayer as a child, but this time I was finally fighting the aliens, because I didn't do that when I was a kid. Even though I had Halo 3 ODST's Firefight, again, we just never went to go with it and never really played it. I guess while I'm talking about Halo, I could say that my favorite, if anyone were to play co-op split screen, which I have not done in years, so I couldn't even really say, but I remember as a kid, it was always Infection. Nowadays, you see me playing SWAT all the time. Like, not all the time, but quite frequently, if I'm ever going to be playing Halo, it's mainly SWAT. It's almost every single time SWAT. When you get a shot at once, it is so fun, so satisfying. And I really appreciate it a lot. Now here's my consensus in general, because again, this is a video of just me talking about Halo, right? I love the first 3 games. They are the best in my opinion. I think they're the greatest. I think it's the greatest. It's the Lord of the Rings for me, okay? Now you might find that silly, but to me it's still the Lord of the Rings, okay, in terms of storyline. You don't get a lot of video games nowadays, and you can probably pick up one out of nowhere, Maybe you can throw in PlayStation even, like The Last of Us or God of War or something, right? But you don't get a lot of games that are going to set up, especially a 3-parter of a whole storyline going on. Usually it's all mixed up everywhere, and it is not the most consistent of the 3, but I think it works very well for what is given, and it is a consistent, storyline that, granted, yeah, it continues in Halo 4 and 5, but in its own realm, I always consider it as one big story. Was just the first 3 itself during, the Human Covenant War from 2552 to 2553, at least it's its own era in itself. And I think the story is just fantastic. I think the gameplay is amazing in the best in all 3 of those ones. But then after that, obviously, it goes into a different territory, at least for me, where I like and appreciate Halo Wars. That was the next game in line. People kind of forget that because ODST and Wars came out the same year in 2009. Halo Wars is an okay game. I prefer it over the second one, quite honestly, but I'm not a very good strategy game player, so I was never really good at it, but I obviously loved it as a kid because it was Halo, It was really cool because it was Halo. It's part of the storyline, right? 2531, And then after that, it was ODST, which I have a huge soft spot for, and it's probably my 4th favorite Halo game out of all of them, because there is a specific ambience and beautiful fine line with it being, you're basically alone. It's the Rookie. The music is its own thing, and it's amazing. They do an amazing job. I think it's Marty O'Donnell that still does it, and it is fantastic, and it's iconic just as much as the original trilogy. And I don't think enough people bring enough appreciation to ODST in that fact, because I think it is I think it's better than Halo Reach. A lot of people really like its soundtrack. That's my least favorite soundtrack, honestly, is Halo Reach, of the Bungie games at least. Halo 3 being my favorite Bungie soundtrack to date, but ODST is really high up there. It has a very, very smooth, very, very articulate, nice music to it, very good tune to it, and you feel alone, and it's probably the closest we've gotten to an open world before Infinite came out. So there's that as well, and it's just, in my opinion, it's a very beautiful game, despite it using Halo 3, all over again. And I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of its missions outside of, more towards the end, I like them, but it's basically every single rookie mission that you play as the rookie, and not the flashbacks. Like, I love the rookie missions. Those are my favorite ones, and just going around and seeing it, it is really weird. And if they remade that game, that would be fantastic. I know people don't like remakes, whatever, but they're both canon, so it doesn't bother me as much, because I'm like, the original obviously still exists, and you can prefer that or say whatnot. It's kind of like Resident Evil, the original will always be there as long as it's ported. As long as it's ported and I'm able to play it, okay? If I'm not able to play it, then I'll have a problem. But I'm able to play it. And then we go into Halo Reach territory, which it seems like that nowadays is usually most people's favorite, is Halo Reach. Is usually, whenever I ask anyone nowadays, it's always usually, and it's not a bad thing by any means, it's just that, like, it's a much darker in tone game, and and the mechanics are very, very different too. It is a huge kind of upgrade from, like, the prior games in a way. But I still don't prefer its gameplay, and I just don't really have much fun with it, honestly. And I like the story a lot. I really like the story. I think it's a great story, of losing and how Reach fell. I think it's an amazing story, but to me, it never came close to the first 3 games at all. And I again, this is kind of where I just kind of stopped caring with a lot of Halo, was when Reach, kind of exists. But, I still think it's one of the better ones, obviously, but outside of that, there's Combat Evolved Anniversary, which, Combat Evolved Anniversary, a lot of people do not like as a remaster, but I'm a defender of it, honestly. I don't really like how it changes a lot of aspects of, the original's aesthetic into Reach's aesthetic, which I think the new game is kind of doing too, but more aligned with Infinite and a mix of other things as well. I don't want to say that for sure, because, the game hasn't exactly came out, but, it's kind of like that, and that was what it was like on the Anniversary. But if you play Halo Reach and then you play Combat Evolved Anniversary, it doesn't, it's not bad or anything, but it cuts out a lot of things that just don't fit right with what the 2001 felt like, Especially the horror sections, if you don't know, 343 Guilty Spark, or, the library or whatnot, it's way too bright in a lot of areas, and even the snowy areas, which is also something I'm a little worried about in the remake handling. It's kind of, I'm iffy on it, but I don't like calling the Anniversary soulless, or, they didn't put work into it, they were lazy, and it's like, no, I wouldn't say that at all, just because it's not Blur Studios, or they didn't make it dark enough or whatnot. It's still a pretty good remaster, let's be honest here. Compared to a lot of other remasters like BioShock, or I don't know, there's a bunch of remasters that are just extremely lazy, and they're not even remasters. They're just ports, but they're called remastered. They're called remastered, but they're not really remastered. But Combat Evolved Anniversary, I always consider as its own game anyway, because it emits a whole different feeling, despite having the same gameplay and the same cutscenes, just, overhauled. And they do remaster the sound effects, and also, I don't know if they remaster the music, but in Halo 2 Anniversary they do. And I'll get to that in a second as well. But Halo 4, Halo 4 is also one of those things where it's like, I can have fun with it in certain aspects, but it's probably one of my least favorite, and it probably is my least favorite in the whole. I don't think it's the worst story ever. It's just that, it is where Halo kind of fell off, and I just don't care. I think it's the most boring campaign. I think it's the most, I mean, I just can't really stand a lot of it, really. I don't hate the Prometheans that much, honestly. I don't really like them, though, you know? There's nothing really that, like, interested me too much with Halo 4, but it's a beautiful game, though. It is actually, like, it's a very good-looking game, especially for 2012. It's a very, very good-looking game. And then we get to Halo 2 Anniversary, which is a really good looking game. And it's not really like that all in like gameplay. Like I'm not saying the gameplay is like bad looking. No, by no means is it a bad remaster at all in gameplay. But the cutscenes are movie like. It is presented like it should be presented because the original was presented that way. It just didn't have the amazing graphics. And Halo 2, I always think of as a downgrade of Halo Combat Evolved's graphics in like a huge way because Halo Combat Evolved was sometimes more chrome, but it was really, I think, the lighting I heard. I heard the lighting of Halo 2 was like a huge reason why it looked so dull and ugly in a lot of areas compared to Combat Evolved. And Halo 3 looked really, really good, and I think that had really good lighting anyway, but there was some sort of lighting that had to do with Halo 2, and I think that's really unfortunate because, again, Halo 2 is so good. If they had more time on it, it might have ended up being the finale and could be the last in the whole franchise for all we know. So that would have been really, really interesting, but I would say thank God we didn't get that. I'm really glad we had Halo 3. It's just some changes, obviously. But, or I wish there was. But, you know, Halo 2 Anniversary is amazing. It's my favorite cutscenes ever. Ever, ever, ever. You know, because the original is already quotable enough, right? The original is iconic, if you will. You get what I mean. I can't do it in the British voice, but it's iconic, straight up. And also, I had to say this. God bless Hidden Xperia. Bless his heart. He has the same exact birthday as me, I think. And also the Act Man, which is a big reason why I do not like Halo 5 storyline. I remember when I was a kid, I played Halo 5, and I didn't think about it much. I definitely didn't like it as much as the other ones, because I would replay the other ones after. I'm like, holy crap, these ones are amazing. And then Halo 5 is just so weird to play, you know? But now I actually like Halo 5 more than I used to. But the Act Man, if you don't know him, I don't really watch his videos anymore, but when I was a kid, he made a video series around the time, around when he blew up, I think because of that video series, which was Halo 5's reviews. And I still adore that series to this day. There's like 5 videos of just complaining about Halo 5. I think it's so funny and it's so entertaining. And that was like really what brought me into it. And like that's why I say I'm a long what am I saying? I'm a hardcore, not a hardcore. I'm an old Act Man fan, what you call it, right? I mean, again, I don't watch YouTube videos that much anymore, so I don't really follow along. Maybe he makes Halo videos still, I have no idea, but I did write down, I have to say this for history, in case I die or something, because I'm on the topic of Halo. I did write on my graduation. I didn't know who to write down as, it was like, I think the question was, you had like this whole biopic thing, I don't know what the hell it was. I had to write down, or everyone had to write down. They usually wrote singers or celebrities or something like that. And it was, if you had to meet anyone, you know, any celebrity, anyone in the whole world, who would you want to meet? And so I just wrote, I didn't know what to write in my graduation thing, but I was like, you know, he's pretty cool. I wrote the acting male. So, I mean, hey, maybe one day I'll meet him. But that's like some fever dream even for some big YouTuber, right? But I don't know. I mean, I have... Maybe before I die. Maybe before I'm 50, 40, or whenever the hell I die. So, anyway, that's a great series. I love that stuff. We get into the territory of Halo Wars 2, which I want to mention real quick. Sorry. I'm back and forth. This channel's a mess. Halo 5 Guardians has great gameplay, in my opinion. I actually really like its multiplayer. Halo 4, I didn't like its multiplayer at all. It's like one of my least favorite multiplayers, but Halo 5, I will defend that multiplayer outside of the microtransactions, of course, but the gameplay is actually pretty fun, you know? So I actually really like Halo 5 in that regard, but otherwise the story and, most of the levels, I would say that's kind of the Halo that, you know, and also the style of Halo 4 and 5. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I know a lot of people like the Jackals of Halo 4 and 5, and yeah, they're like the least bad, I would say, because I really don't like the grunts, I hate the grunts and elite designs. I think they're awful. And I don't really care about the Jackal designs either. I just don't like them. But they're not as bad, I guess, as the Elite and Grunts. But that's usually the one thing that people like out of the 343 designs. But even then, it's like I just don't really like them either. But I'm fine with them and the other ones being subspecies. But when you retcon stuff, that's when I have a problem. So I don't like that. What they did with the Arbiter there, that's not fair. That's not real. But I understand that it was probably an asset restriction or restraint or whatever you want to call it. Now, Halo Wars 2 is where we get into the category of they change back the art style, they kind of mix it up a little bit, and that kind of leads into Halo Infinite's, structure of how it does things. And I don't mind Halo Wars 2. Again, I like the first one a lot more. I think it's an interesting premise. I do like Atriox. I think he's a really interesting villain, and I love the Banished. They have such a cool aesthetic and pattern. I mean, if you already know me, you know what I rock, right, with all that kind of stuff. And Halo Wars 2 did really cool with that. But again, I'm not very good at strategy games, but it's also a very good looking game. Blur Studios is once at it again, and I think it's fantastic in that regard. And I wouldn't mind having a Halo Wars 3, but it's like the other Halo games, which I haven't mentioned yet. But after all the Bungie games, you would know that Halo does not have a structure or a ending per se. Like they'll always have these. They'll always have these. What is it called? These endings that lead absolutely nowhere. It's not like a Halo 2 situation. Halo 2, it continued and it ended in Halo 3. Reach had a complete conclusion too. And ODST concluded its own story and alluded to Halo 3, which already was out, but that was the point of timeline structure, And so nothing was wrong with that. But Halo 4 I guess Halo 4 had much more of a conclusion compared to something like Halo 5. But Halo 5 was that way, and Halo Wars 2 was as well. And Halo Infinite, Halo Infinite's kind of. I guess I can start talking about it now. Halo Infinite was one of those games a lot of people were really excited about at the time. And that's why I bring it up. A lot of people who I know or I've seen have talked about the new Halo game and are disinterested in it, or they don't really care. They think it's going to be bad, and have trust issues. Completely understand on all of that. But I know a lot of those people, they really liked Halo, or maybe they didn't really like it, but they liked Halo Infinite when it came out, and they were really excited for it at the time. I am their reaction back then as to I'm like the reverse of it. Because I'm really excited for Campaign Evolved. I'm really excited. I think it looks beautiful. I'm so happy they're using Unreal Engine 5. And I know I shouldn't have my hopes up and stuff, but I am a big Xbox. I'm not an Xbox fan really anymore, and I don't really care about console war stuff as I was when I was a kid or some stupid crap like that. But I still want the best for them because that's like my home console. It really is. I don't play console anymore, but I still support and I want the best for Xbox. I don't want to see it fail. That's what I grew up with as a kid. So when I see that, it really sucks. But, I mean, Halo Infinite back then, it was supposed to be the launch title of the Xbox Series X. And also, obviously it got delayed. When the gameplay trailer came out, I believe in 2020, before it got even delayed, I did not like the way it looked. I thought it looked really, really cartoony looking, and I wasn't really a fan of even how Halo 5 looked. You don't have to go ultra realistic by any means, but I just didn't really like the way it looked. It looked super smooth. I thought Halo 5 had that problem of being really glassy, and I couldn't take it really seriously. It still felt like another 343. I mean, it was a 343 game. But Halo 4 and 5 have a much sillier, goofier tone, if that makes sense, with especially the Covenant. And I just didn't, a lot of the animations, I didn't like that either. I didn't care about the story. Master Chief's armor looked really cool. Don't get me wrong, that was really cool. Because I was really excited based on the first two trailers, but then the gameplay came out and it was this does not look great. And the engine does not seem like it's working well. And I was right. I was right, and I really, really was like not excited for the game. But I did get it for Christmas, and I was like, you know what? I still want to play the game. I'm still a Halo fan because unlike a lot of other people who are like, they'll be fans of franchises and they'll be like, oh, I'm not playing that game or blah, blah, blah because I don't care about it. I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'm too curious and I want to play it because I want to rank it, just like a movie in a franchise. Well, yeah, just because I'm like I know it's gonna be bad or I know I'm gonna hate it. Well, I want to see. Maybe I won't. And I ended up playing it, and I'll be honest, I was back and forth on it because when I played it initially, I was like, I feel super wrong on a lot of regards because it looked way better than the first gameplay trailer. They did fix a lot of things. Although in a lot of areas in that game, it's really awkward because there's like not super detailed necessarily, but there's some detailed areas in that game that's like like it's really weird it's really hard to explain. It's like the grass looks bad sometimes, and like, or no, I'm thinking Halo 5 in that. But like it's really, really weird how Halo Infinite works, where sometimes it looks really good and sometimes it looks like, what the hell am I looking at? Well, like did I not do this part specifically? It's really weird. But I appreciate it a lot. I mean, there's free roam in that game, open world, and you could just do whatever you want, like Halo 1 and 2, or even, maybe even 3, I don't remember. But, you could do that, and, you can fall from a high place and you won't die. That was awesome. That was really cool. The grappling hook was so cool. Again, it's very shiny in a lot of areas. I love shininess. I think that's really cool. The story wasn't that bad, but I didn't care about it that much, and I felt like a lot didn't happen. And I still feel that way to this day. Like, you could maybe say that, like, oh, it's like the first game, like it's its own thing, it's like a new thing, right? I feel like way more happened in Combat Evolved than this game. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like they didn't really take much risks or like do much with it, right? It just feels like they're just doing the same thing that they did in like Halo 5, it's starting off a new basis, and I just don't really like that, and I just don't really care about the story that much. Especially, I think his name was Escharum. I didn't like him as a villain. A lot of people liked Escharum as a villain, thought he was really cool and unique, but I was just, I cringed a lot of the time, and I was like, I don't care about this guy. This guy isn't even cool. Like this guy's not cool. The guy, I'm sorry, the dude name, I think his name was Blade. Was his name Blade Master? I think it's the goofiest name, but he has such a cool design, and I forgot what they're called, the Shadows or something like that. I think they're really, really cool. Those guys and Blade Master. He has another name that whatever his other name is, way cooler probably, okay? I don't like calling him that. I think it's so funny. But he was really cool, and he had a really cool section. But again, Escharum I didn't care for, and I was like, we just get to Atriox, because I like Atriox. Atriox is a pretty cool villain. Why not, right? Escharum just sounds like, Escharum was always just that wannabe character. It just felt like, and I never felt bad for him. I never cared for him. Not that I need to. It's just he wasn't a character like Tartarus, right? Tartarus was a really cool character in Halo 2. And Atriox, I think, is a very interesting character, and I want to know more about him, but he got out of the way, and he just showed up for like the first cutscene, and he's like, oh, where'd he go? I don't know where he went. So, yeah, this is just a whole rambling video. Why do I like Halo, and why am I talking about the whole franchise in general? Well, why not? My favorite game franchise, so there you go. There's my talking spree of it all, of 30-something minutes. Now, we're on to 5 years later, which, it was 6 years after Halo 5 was Infinite, and now we're 5 years later, and we got a new Halo coming out, and it's a remake. So, I really don't like how remakes change a lot and do a lot of stuff that I just personally am not a fan of, but I'm not discovering hope necessarily on this one, but I'm really excited for it. I can't help it. I know that 343 is still kind of the studio, but there's a lot of new members now. Xbox is changing a lot of stuff. I understand Xbox has just recently changed ownership and all, but like I I don't want to go on the hate bandwagon. I think they can do so much more with Unreal Engine 5. I'm not saying I have the most faith in like the new team or anything like that, but I say just give them a chance. I mean, I know we've said that so many times at this point, and I just don't want to. I don't have time to always be angry and give criticism, for everything, right? Like I just want to play a good game, you know? And I love Halo as a franchise. I know it's not going to be accurate to the original in so many ways, and especially aesthetic and style wise, which, if you know me, probably Halo Combat Evolved is my favorite aesthetic. Not the anniversary, not the remake, unfortunately, because it seems to be that way where a lot of it kind of looks like Infinite. And I know they're making a lot of changes and all, but I don't know. I'm really excited because it looks like they are taking more risks compared to Infinite. There's a lot of it looks like there's a lot of fun to be had with it. Infinite was very different. I'll give it that. I'm not trying to say it wasn't, but Campaign Evolved. It's not like it's a remaster. It's new gameplay, new different stuff, and I'm gonna give it a chance. I can't help it. It's my most anticipated game coming out. That's just how I feel. So anyway, with giving out my most controversial opinions out there, and probably if someone comes across this in the future, maybe even in 10 years from now, it's gonna make someone really mad and comment down below something really mean. So that's okay. That's the Halo community for you. I'm used to it. I've been part of the DC community. I understand. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Mercy. This is my hot take opinion, if you will. And yeah, Halo is the best gaming franchise of all time, and I'm going to adore it until the day I die, even if it sucks. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Mercy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I can't think of a Master Chief quote. Okay, I'm just going to end it.